Hello, and welcome to this episode of the PD Smash Podcast. Today we have a great one for you. First up, we're going to talk about the Anthony Davis situation with the Lakers. After that, we're going to talk about Steph Curry. Then we're going to talk about the Indiana Pacers blowing it up. After that, we're going to talk about the Patriots and their success on Monday Night Football. And then we're going to talk about the development of quarterbacks in the NFL. Thank you so much, Smash fans, for tuning into this episode of PD Smash Sports Podcast. And without further ado, let's get into it. So first up, I want to talk about Anthony Davis. And I want to talk about Anthony Davis in the regards of, really, he's been disappointing this season. If you look at his counting stats, they're not necessarily the worst in the world, averaging just over 24 points, decent amount of rebounds, good assists for power forward. Field goal percentage is not terrible. But when you watch him, and the fact that he was supposed to be a number one option for more than half of the season with LeBron missing the amount of games that he actually missed, and him only being able to put up 24, him only being able to barely hold down the fort with LeBron gone, and the fact some people wanted to call him a top 5 player in the league is kind of ridiculous to me. He needs to be better. On a night-to-night basis, he needs to bring it. He has the talent. He's shown the killer instinct from time to time. He just never brings it consistently. And I think that's the problem we have. It's the problem that he never brings it consistency to the table. And I think that consistency might be what hurts the Lakers in the long run come playoff time. Now, I think the Lakers are a good team. I think they'll make the playoffs as probably a top 3 to 4 seed, especially with LeBron playing the way he has been playing with multiple 30-point games, being as dominant as he is from the three-point line and from the mid-range. But come playoff time, when you have to face the Suns, the Warriors, a healthy Nuggets team, a team that is really deep in the Jazz, you have so many teams you have to face. You need your secondary star to step up. And Anthony Davis has shown that he can't do that on a consistent basis. Going back almost until the beginning of his career, except for the year in 2020 when they won the championship. So we'll see if he can get that consistency back. But I don't know if he can. But they did get a dub last night. He didn't play particularly well, but he didn't have a horrible game. LeBron had a great game, so let's see if they can get back on track. Let's see if Anthony Davis can get back on track. And hopefully, for his sake, he can. Because people are catching up to him real fast in terms of best player in the world in rankings. Like Jason Tatum's catching him. Trae Young's catching him. There are players catching him. He's like 11th right now. I could see him falling to 15th or 16th by the end of the year if he keeps being this inconsistent. With that being said, I want to talk about Steph Curry and the potential he has tonight. When this will be aired, this will probably be posted around 5:30 Central Time, 6:30 Eastern Time. About 3.5 hours before tip-off of the Warriors Trailblazers game. And when that happens, Steph Curry will be 16 threes away from breaking the all-time leading three-point shots made record. With that being said, the all-time single game record for three-pointers made is 12. So, if Steph Curry wanted to go for both records in one night, this would be the time to do it. And when asked about a press conference if this is something he would attempt to do, he said, anything is possible. So I think there's a high chance we see Steph Curry try to break not one, but 2 records tonight. The single game 3-point record and the all-time 3-point record in one of the most legendary nights in regular season history. Especially against the team where a couple years ago there were rumblings that Damian Lillard was the better of the 2 point guards. And I think this would be a great way for Steph Curry to shut that all down. And I think really propel himself into the driver's seat for MVP. He's right now battling with Kevin Durant. Giannis has a good case. But I think if Steph Curry not only breaks the all-time record, but also breaks the single-game record against Portland, and they keep up this dominance, I think this will really solidify his case as the front runner for MVP. So that's definitely something to watch out for moving forward, and definitely a game, if you can, to watch tonight to see if he does go for history. With that being said, I do hope he does get it, because I think it would be a great night for the majority of the sports world. And imagine how NBA Twitter would go in the talk shows the next day. There'd be some outlandish person that would be like, Steph Curry is better than Magic Johnson, which is ridiculous. I think Steph Curry is the second best point guard of all time, but Steph Curry is not a top 10 player of all time, and Magic is. So unless you're willing to say that Steph Curry is a top 5 player of all time, and therefore better than Kevin Durant, which I already think, but that's what you're saying if you're saying he's the best point guard of all time, then by all means, go ahead and say that. I will debate you all day about it, but go ahead and say it. Because I think Kevin Durant is overrated, but that is a topic for another time. With that being said, the next topic I want to talk about is the Indiana Pacers and the fact that they are planning on blowing it up, it seems, and what this means for around the league. Now, Karis LeVert could be traded, could stay on the team because he's still relatively young. However, if he were to be traded, I think a great place for him to go is Dallas, because they need that secondary ball handler besides Luka. Karis LeVert can play off ball very well. He's a decent shooter. He gives you that secondary help. He can run the second unit. He'll give you an efficient 18 a game at least. And he has that microwave type ability. I think another great place that I could see him go is the 76ers, where it allows you to get that another type of point guard, shooting guard type of mold. That might be a little redundant with Seth Curry. My apologies there, but maybe not. Other than that, I don't see a lot of places where he fits in terms of contending roles. Like the Nuggets, Jamal Murray and him kind of serve the same purpose. The Suns already have two guards. The Warriors are already getting into a logjam at that position. So I don't see the real value there. Miami Heat don't need him. So I really do think this would be a great place for the Mavericks to snatch him up. However, Domantas Sabonis. Now, I think what I would really like to see him paired up again with Jokic. I don't know if that would necessarily be the greatest pairing, but I think that'd be a really fun pairing to watch. Two of the best passing big men in the league. Domantas can shoot a little bit. Jokic can shoot at a ridiculous clip. Defensively, that may be a little bit of a struggle there. Domantas isn't a bad defender, but he's not necessarily the greatest defender of all time. And Jokic is a good defender. Or I wouldn't say a good defender. He's a decent defender. With that being said, I think a great place for Domantas Sabonis to go would be the Warriors, just because they don't have that solidified center. And you could trade James Wiseman for Domantas Sabonis, and I think you get really close value there. You could throw that in like a second-round pick and probably get Domantas Sabonis, and you then get an all-star caliber center there. You get your shooting guard in Klay Thompson back. You get Steph Curry, and then you could run something like a Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole, Draymond Green, Domantas Sabonis lineup. And I think that would be great because Domantas Sabonis is a good defender. He's nothing special, but he's a good defender. Draymond Green's one of, if not the best defender of all time. You have Klay Thompson, who's at the very minimum going to be an all right defender, but he could be a great defender depending on how bad the ACL affects his defensive prowess. Jordan Poole's a pretty good defender, and Steph Curry's not bad himself. I think the other place that would be really good for Domantas Sabonis to go would be the Brooklyn Nets, because they need that interior help, and I think that would help them a lot. But I don't know what they would give up to get Domantas Sabonis is the problem. With that all being said, the last person is Miles Turner, and I think Miles Turner is a perfect fit for the Lakers. You give up Taylor Horton-Tucker in a second-round pick for Miles Turner, who is one of the best defenders in the league, can shoot the ball at a decent clip, and is most importantly not afraid to play the center position. Like, Anthony Davis, my guy. You look like a twig out there. You look lost. You need a map, my guy. But that would allow Anthony Davis to play his more natural position at power forward, because he seems to not have the mentality to play center. Miles Turner is very good defender in the pick and roll. You don't lose any defensive prowess. You don't lose much shooting there either. And just overall, I like that move for them, especially because the Taylor Horton-Tucker, I think you can do like Taylor Horton-Tucker, Kendrick Nunn, and like a second could get you Miles Turner. I think that's a possibility. I don't know how the money would work there. You may need to get some sort of other way to make the money work. I'm not sure how you would do that. But I think that would be a good trade if they could make the money work there. And just overall, I think it's good the Pacers are blowing up. I think Rick Carlisle is a good coach, but he's not a great coach, and there's not much you can do with this roster. The ceiling for this roster is a 5th seed. The floor is like an 11th seed. There's not much more you can do with it, and I think there are definitely players that can contribute heavily to winning franchises and winning situations and contend for a championship. Now switching from the NBA to the NFL, I want to talk about the Patriots beating the Bills, and the fact that Mac Jones only had not 1, not 2, but 3 pass attempts, I believe it was, for the entire game. Now, I wouldn't read too much into this because the conditions were ridiculous. You could throw the ball more than 10 yards down the field without the ball getting caught by the wind and it going crazy. But I think this shows Mac Jones' ability and poise to stay mature even in tough situations. Because there are not a lot of quarterbacks in the league, rookie or not, great arm talent or not, who would accept the fact they only threw 3 times an entire game. Imagine being out there for 50 plays and running the ball on 47 of them. That's basically what ended up happening. Mac Jones was doing nothing in the freezing cold for like, what would that be? If I were to do my math correctly, that's 98, 96, about 94% of his possessions on offense, he was just handing the ball off. And one of the passes was a screen. So, like, yeah, it was a great scheme by Bill Belichick. I will not deny that. Bill Belichick had a great game coaching. But the fact that Mac Jones didn't try to go rogue, didn't show any emotion on the sidelines, any frustration, is an amazing sign. And we all know that in decent conditions, he can pass the ball accurately, well, and often. So this was just a great way of accepting the game plan, because especially in your rookie year, and especially with the arm talent he has, he does not have the strongest arm. So it was good to see him accept the fact that the circumstances weren't as advantageous as they could have been for him, and adapt and not be mad when they adapted. And then on the Bills side, this was a bad loss. Not because they lost to the Patriots, it's the way they lost. They had a lot of opportunities to score to take the lead, and they just didn't capitalize. And that makes this really, really hard. They decided to go and take a field goal on a 4th and I think it was 8 from the 30-yard line, and they missed it because of the wind instead of going for it when they were down 4 with like 8 minutes left. There were just a few things they did where it scratched my head, where I was scratching my head like, I know this team's supposed to be good and it's dynamic, but there are some mental lapses there that I don't get. Like Josh Allen thought he had an offsides call, so he threw it into the end zone into tight coverage and missed the throw. There are just certain things that happened that perplexed me about this game for the Bills. So I really do hope that they get back on track, because I do like the Bills and I think they have the potential to go very far in the playoffs. With that being said, the last thing I want to talk about ties into Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs in particular, and that's the development of quarterbacks in the NFL. And really the tie it has to elite wide receivers. Because not all teams need elite wide receivers to win Super Bowls. It helps, certainly, just like having talent helps win a Super Bowl. But it's not this crucial thing. However, having an elite quarterback is vital to winning a Super Bowl. There are very few times where there has not been an elite quarterback at a helm of a Super Bowl winning team. Like, you could go back throughout history, and of course there are exceptions to this rule, but usually that's because there was some sort of generational talent somewhere else. You're like top 10 talent of all time somewhere else. But with that being said, I was watching the Dallas Cowboy game last Thursday, and I realized how crucial an elite wide receiver is to a quarterback's development. There's no denying that Dak is great, but Dak, especially in years past, was nowhere near as good without Amari Cooper. Josh Allen didn't become an MVP candidate until Steph Diggs arrived. Kyler Murray was not elite until DeAndre Hopkins. Tom Brady didn't reach his full potential until Randy Moss came. Now, once these quarterbacks are developed, that's a different story, because once they're developed, that development doesn't leave them. Of course, it's going to affect their play a little bit. It doesn't leave them. It's not like they suddenly get worse. A great example of this is Deshaun Watson, where he had DeAndre Hopkins. They played for a few years. He was able to develop with the cushion of DeAndre Hopkins. And then once DeAndre Hopkins got traded to the Arizona Cardinals, a horrible trade, by the way, but I digress. It still allowed Deshaun Watson to lead the league in passing, because he had developed to the point to where he didn't need DeAndre Hopkins to be dominant anymore. And yeah, sure, those passing yards didn't lead to wins, but that's because the defense was horrible. Head coach was the worst in the league, and then they had an interim head coach that wasn't very good. There's a whole bunch of things. The special teams wasn't very good, still not. Defense is still not good. Offense is horrendous. But regardless, he didn't need that superstar wide receiver anymore, because he learned how to do it without him, because he had the cushion of DeAndre Hopkins. And it's just an interesting observation that one of the best ways to develop a quarterback has not been through offensive head coaches, which that has happened. And I think offensive-minded head coaches and good offensive head coaches are able to get the best out of players at their current state. Very few head coaches can help players develop in a substantial way, but an elite wide receiver will almost always help a quarterback develop in a substantial way. A very notable exception to this is Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham Jr. But with that being said, I think the major difference between that and most things is that one, OBJ could not stay healthy at all. And the second is it never felt as if Odell was accepted into the Browns facility and into the Browns playbook. It never felt like Baker and OBJ accepted each other on the football field, and I think that was the main reason that didn't work. And also, OBJ is still probably not that elite. We'll see what happens with the Rams, but I doubt he's an elite wide receiver, or he was even an elite wide receiver back when he was with the Browns, except maybe the first year, but then he tore his ACL. And I don't think since then he's been an elite wide receiver. He's still good, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's an elite wide receiver. With that all being said, of course you need the quarterback to have that potential. I don't think Baker Mayfield has the potential to be a star quarterback in this league. And I think that's also another reason why it didn't really work out. However, someone like Deshaun Watson does. Someone like Tom Brady did. Josh Allen had that sort of ability as well. Kyler Murray did. The one notable exception, other than what I just named, is when a quarterback has a quality about him that is generational, that is one of a kind. A great example of this is Lamar. Lamar has a great running a game and running ability, and that opened up the passing lanes for him because his receiving core is consistent of wide receivers that at best are second options in most offenses, which that's kind of sad. However, with that all being said, just overall, it seems that the trend, especially lately, has been an elite quarterback has been paired with an elite wide receiver. And I think an elite wide receiver is crucial to the development of an elite quarterback. However, that is the end of this episode. I hope I gave you something to ponder about and ponder with. And just overall, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode of PD Smash Sports. If you want to check out my articles, the link to my blog is in the description below if you're listening to this on YouTube or Spotify. If you're listening to this on my blog, you can literally just go to the article section. If you want to sign up for my email list or to contact me, you can use the number and text me, or use the email and email me on the site. Additionally, you can use the contact section in Wix on my website. Thank you so much once again, Smash fans, for tuning in. And without further ado, PD Smash signing off.